Have you ever had someone so entitled, so audacious, that they thought they could take what's yours without asking? Well, that happened to me, and when I finally decided to fight back, the results were better than I could have imagined. If you love watching justice served cold and perfectly, smash that like button, subscribe, and stick around, because today's story is going to show you exactly what happens when someone crosses the wrong person. I live in Asia, right in the heart of the capital. I just bought a new house, a fixer-upper, to be honest. But the deal was too good to pass up. The previous owners were family friends who needed cash fast. They hadn't been in the country for nearly 3 years. I got the house at a steal. The moment I moved in, I realized this house had been abandoned in more ways than one. The main door, locked with just a padlock. No gate. Anyone could walk in if they wanted to. And guess what happened my first day? Someone left their bike in my garage. I didn't even hesitate. I moved the bike onto the street, and later that evening, an angry man was banging on my gate. I ignored him. From a window, I watched him fume for 15 minutes before finally giving up. That's when I knew I was stepping into a neighborhood where boundaries weren't respected. A no parking sign eventually solved the bike problem, but that was just the beginning. Then came the neighbor. He's an old guy who lives in a 3-story house next door. The first floor is his, and the upper 2 floors are rented out. From the moment I bought the house, I could feel his resentment. He hadn't wanted this property sold. He made his anger clear to the previous owners, and they warned me. But I wasn't worried. I'm 6 foot tall, I have 3 dogs, and honestly, he had nothing on me. But it wasn't about physical threats. It was about subtle sabotage. One evening, while I was showering, I noticed the water pressure was weaker than usual. Then I heard the neighbor's water pump kicking on. Immediately, a red flag went up. The more I thought about it, the more things started adding up. Skyrocketing water bills over the past 3 years, even though the house was supposedly abandoned. Small leaks couldn't explain it. Someone was siphoning water, and my gut told me who. Sure enough, it had to be him. That old miser thought he could save a few bucks by stealing my water. He had crossed a line that I spent days debating what to do. Should I confront him? Go through legal channels? Or just let it slide? Here's the thing. Water in my country is cheap. My actual usage costs about $5 a month. Even with 3 dogs, a car wash every week, and water in my garden. But it wasn't about money. It was about principle. It was about entitled people who think they can take what doesn't belong to them and get away with it. That kind of audacity doesn't sit right with me. And I knew I wanted to teach him a lesson, so I planned something simple. No laws broken, no sneaking around, just smart strategy. I waited for the moment his pump flicked on. Then I turned off my main water supply. Simple, right? But in our household setup, this had a dramatic effect. The tanks on the roof detect water levels with a ball valve that controls the pump. If the tank doesn't fill, the valve stays open, signaling the pump to keep running. A starving pump? Bad news. Really bad news. I didn't even have to touch his property. I just flicked the valve off of my house and let physics and poor wiring do the rest at BY 3 a.m. I heard hushed voices turning to frantic shouting from his house. The pump kept running all night, overloading the electrical wiring. Old 90s wiring wasn't built for this, and the result? His tenants had no water and no power. Chaos. The tenants filed complaints. Legally, power and water are essentials. The landlord, my neighbor, was liable. He had to refund security deposits, pay fines, and couldn't rent the house until the issues were fixed. He lost both tenants. And the look on his face when he came to my gate the next day, priceless. Oh yeah, my tank had a leak, I told him casually. The subtle panic in his eyes said it all. I didn't even need to reveal. I knew he'd been stealing from me. In the end, justice didn't need to be brutal. It just needed to be smart. One simple action. Turning off my water exposed entitlement, negligence, and dishonesty. Sometimes, revenge isn't about money. It's about respect, fairness, and reminding people that actions have consequences. After that night, things changed in the neighborhood. You could almost feel the shift in the air whenever I stepped outside. People began noticing my presence. not in a bad way, but like I'd quietly claimed this territory. Meanwhile, my neighbor, the old man, was in full damage control mode. He started pacing his house, checking the wiring, muttering to himself, and calling electricians in a frenzy. I could hear the sporadic shouts of frustration from the tenants above him as he tried to manage the chaos. I have to admit, part of me felt a twinge of guilt, but it didn't last long. Watching someone who thought they could take advantage of me scramble helplessly was cathartic. Every frustrated shout, every slammed door, every muttered curse was validation a few days later. He came over, not to apologize, of course, but to gauge how much I knew. "Hey, did you maybe turn your water off the other night?" He sounded nervous, like a kid caught sneaking cookies before dinner. His voice was low, hesitant. Try to measure my reaction. I kept my poker face. "Yeah," I said casually. "The tank had a minor leak, so I just shut it off until the plumber came. Nothing serious." The moment I said it, I saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes darted, the slight tremor in his hand. It was the first time I'd seen him like that. I didn't even have to mention the pump, the tenants, or the fines. The guilt, the fear, it was already eating him alive. And that's when I realized revenge doesn't always need confrontation. Sometimes letting the consequences unfold is the most powerful weapon. But the story didn't end there. About a week later, I noticed something unusual. One of his former tenants, an older woman from the second floor, came over while I was watering my garden. She looked hesitant but curious. "I just want to say thanks," she said. "He's been impossible. You really changed things. We couldn't live there anymore." It hit me then. My little act of revenge didn't just punish him. It also liberated those under his control. The old man had been exploiting everyone, me his tenants. And now, slowly, justice was rippling through the lives he disrupted. As I watched her walk away, I thought about the strange satisfaction revenge can bring. It's not the money, not the fines, not even the chaos. It's the affirmation that you have control over your own life. This wasn't about being cruel. It was about setting boundaries, about showing that entitlement and disrespect have consequences. And in a way, I felt like I'd restored balance, not just for myself, but for everyone who had suffered under his small, bitter tyranny. To be why the next month, I had a plumber come in, fix my lines, and removed any chance of anyone tapping into my water again. The house was safe. The neighbor? He had moved in with his daughter. The tenants were gone, and his income stream had vanished. Sometimes I passed by his old house and noticed the faint smell of burnt wiring. I don't smile maliciously. I just nod to myself, a quiet acknowledgement that sometimes the universe has a way of setting things right. And me? I finally feel a home in my city, in my house, with my dogs, with my boundaries respected. And that sense of control, that calm satisfaction, it's priceless. Life has a funny way of teaching lessons. You can't control everyone and you can't prevent every injustice, but you can decide how to respond. And sometimes the most effective response isn't anger. It's patience, observation, and letting consequences do the work for you. If this story gave you chills and reminded you that justice doesn't have to be violent to be satisfying, hit that like button and tell me in the comments. Have you ever quietly taught someone a lesson they'd never forget? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of karma served perfectly. Psychological tension with neighbors' attempts to assess protagonists' knowledge. Added human impact. Former tenants expressing relief and gratitude. Expanded protagonist reflection on revenge, justice, and empowerment. Cinematic pacing, suspense anticipation, and payoff sequences enhanced. If you loved watching this perfectly calculated revenge unfold, hit that like button and tell me in the comments, have you ever had someone take advantage of you, and how did you handle it? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of karma served just right.